But now we're going to jump into physics. All right, so there's some physics behind, there's actually a lot of physics behind the universe in our world. But before we jump in, Psalms 102:25 says this. It says, "In the beginning you laid the foundations of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands." The heavens are the work of the hands of God. And before the foundations of the earth, man, God created. We believe that. And you know, there's actually in the book that I was studying, there's a chapter that Lee Strobel has in his book. And the chapter is called "The Evidence of Physics. The Cosmos on a Razor's Edge." The cosmos on a razor's edge. Do you realize how finely tuned the universe is for life to exist? Because there are fundamental laws and parameters of physics that have to be in place for life to be sustainable here on Earth. Actually, there's 50. There's 50 different parameters that have to be finely tuned, the dials turned just right, just to have life sustainable here on Earth. Things like the gravitational force, electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, proton mass, speed of light, and 45 more parameters that all the dials have to be just right for life to be sustainable on Earth. You realize if you take out one of them, like if you were to take out gravity, for instance, that pulls matter together, you wouldn't have planets, you wouldn't have stars, and you would have no complex organisms, just by taking one of the 50 out. But let's not take it out. Can we go ahead and turn the house lights on up to 10%? Let's not take it out, all right? But actually, let's picture this. Let's picture that this is a gigantic ruler that spans the length of the universe. So we're talking about 15 billion light years, okay? A ruler that's 15 billion light years long, all right? And it goes all the way to the end of the universe, all the way. Now, I can't go to the end of the universe, but I can go to the back of the auditorium. That's about as far as I can go. So and on this ruler that spans 15 billion light years, it's broken up, and if you just like a tape measure, right? You open up a tape measure, there's 1-inch increments. Can you imagine a ruler 15 billion light years long with 1-inch increments? Here, can you hold that for me, Dave? Thank you. Right? 15 billion light years long. And on this ruler is 1-inch increments. All right? And on this ruler is the possible range for gravity, okay? And the setting for the strength of gravity could be anywhere on this ruler, stretching from here to the end of the universe, 15 billion light years. The strength of gravity could be placed anywhere. And it just so happens to be right in the right place to make life sustainable here on Earth. So a ruler 15 billion light years long, do you know what happens when you move the gravitational force 1 inch? Do you realize how minuscule that is on a ruler 15 billion light years long? You move it 1 inch, boom, life doesn't exist. 1 inch in a 15 billion year long ruler. You move it 1 inch, life is no longer sustainable here on Earth. It's gone. And scientists want us to believe that it just so happens that scientifically, that it just so happens that it was an accident, that the gravitational force was put in a place where life could be sustainable. 15 billion year long ruler, and it is put just in the right place. I mean, we talk moving it an inch, and all of a sudden, life is not sustainable. Do you know, and if you changed it, and when you move it an inch, nothing larger than a pea would be able to exist. Every living organism larger than a pea would be crushed. And this is what scientists want us to believe, that it was all just an accident. And the only way, and as I said, that's just one parameter. There's 49 more parameters that are dialed in just right to make life sustainable here on Earth. A physicist, Paul Davies, he says this: "It is hard to resist the impression that the present structure of the universe, apparently so sensitive to minor alteration in numbers, has been rather carefully thought out. The seemingly miraculous concurrence of these numerical values must remain the most compelling evidence for cosmic design." That all of these parameters and how finely tuned they are to make life sustainable here on Earth actually points towards a creator, he says, of a cosmic design, of a creator who thought about how life is going to be sustainable here on Earth. It's amazing. Another one is the cosmological constant. I talked about this a little bit earlier, how the universe is always expanding, continuously expanding, getting bigger and bigger. Well, the cosmological constant is the speed at which the universe expands. And if you change that speed, you change the speed in which the universe is expanding, and all of a sudden, objects can't form, no stars, no galaxies, and no planets. And do you know how finely tuned that is? It's 1 part to 100 million billion, 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 billion. That's how finely tuned the speed at which the universe is expanding, that if changed, all of a sudden, there's no planets. That would be like standing on the moon with a dart and having a target on Earth, throwing the dart and hitting the target the size of an atom. That's the chances of the world just happen to exploded and life just happened to be sustainable here on Earth. Dr. Vera says, she said, "The exquisite order displayed by our scientific understanding of the physical world calls for the divine." So you just look at the world and you look how finely tuned these 50 parameters are, and it calls for the divine. You cannot get away from it. The only way, though, to explain how finely tuned our universe is would be if there was an infinite amount of universes. So if there was, picture this like a universe-making machine that was spitting out an infinite amount of universes, then eventually all the dials of all those 50 parameters, the gravitational pull, and all these things would get set just right if there was an infinite amount of universes. Well, we have 2 problems with that. One, who made this universe-making machine, for starters? But then, there's absolutely 0 evidence for one other universe, let alone an infinite amount. We have one universe, and scientists are telling us that we just hit the cosmic jackpot, that we hit the cosmic lottery, and life just happens to be sustainable accidentally. Do you realize just with the 2 parameters alone, the gravity, the gravitational pull, and the cosmological constant, the speed in which the universe expands, just those 2 alone and the precision at which they are dialed in points to a creator. That points to this was thought out, that there is just no possible way to get life sustainable here on Earth accidentally. So